I have created this video to expose what I believe to be unsafe and unethical medical practice by the Priory Hospital. The practice that I am referring to is the prescribing of experimental combinations of antidepressant drugs to unsuspecting patients. Also, that the Priory Hospital does so without making patients aware that they are taking part in such an experiment and without providing proper medical supervision. I suffered what is now obviously serious permanent harm as a consequence of being prescribed an experimental combination of antidepressant drugs by the Priory Hospital, Roehampton. The drugs in question being venlafaxine and mirtazapine, otherwise known as Effexor and Remeron or Zispin. I was prescribed this combination of drugs by fax and received no medical supervision from the Priory Hospital whatsoever. I have obtained a copy of a letter written by the Priory Hospital from the time that I was prescribed these drugs. The letter states there is nothing in the literature about this treatment and makes reference to other people being prescribed the same combination. Clearly, the Priory Hospital was prescribing unsuspecting patients an experimental combination of drugs which they knew full well had not been evaluated anyway to establish its safety. 2 years after I unknowingly took part in what was obviously a Priory Hospital experiment, a small trial for the same combination of drugs was carried out in the USA. 26 adults with persistent major depression were invited to participate in the trial and received either mirtazapine or placebo augmentation over a 4-week period. Prior to the trial commencing, approval was sought from the hospital's Institutional Review Board and written informed consent was obtained from the volunteers after procedures had been fully explained to them. Of the 26 volunteers, 3 discontinued the trial prematurely due to intolerable side effects. The results of the study were published by the Society of Biological Psychiatry. The approach of the Priory Hospital and that of the hospital in the USA could not be further removed. On one hand, the Priory Hospital was conducting its own trials using unsuspecting patients, in the knowledge that no information existed to prove the safety of this combination of drugs. On the other hand, a responsible trial approved by the hospital's Institutional Review Board and where patients were fully informed and provided written consent. In March 2010, a paper written by A. John Rush on the subject of combining antidepressants, published in the American Journal of Psychiatry, concludes further efforts to evaluate the safety, efficacy and place for antidepressant medication combinations are called for. Despite the lack of clinical trials and scientific evidence to prove the safety of antidepressants in combination, there are some psychiatrists who do so without a second thought to the risks that they are exposing their patients to. Unfortunately, the only way that psychiatrists can determine whether drugs are safe in combination is by trial and error, and by experimenting with their patients. This can be done in one of 2 ways, either by carefully controlled trials where patients are made aware of the fact that they are participating in such a trial and provide informed consent, or the Priory Hospital's approach where, as in my case, no informed consent was obtained and no medical supervision provided.